Hello everybody, it's New. Today I'd like to bring you a very data-centric video. It's one many of you have been waiting for. I finally got around to completing the assignment that I gave myself. Indeed, this is the results, the final tally of 1,000 Crimson Temple runs that were done in Sanctum League by myself. These were recorded and put into 10 separate 100 map segments. All of it was uncut on Twitch, and there are links to all of these. You can begin, if you'd like, with the link that is in the description of this video, which will take you to the first 100 maps. So just to kind of give you a little preview, that will be available to you. There are all kinds of links in the description, including the mapping strategy I used, as well as the character that was used. It's relevant to this test run. There's also a link to the Prohibited Library's Divination card drop tables estimates that are a big part of any test run, as we like to try and identify. Part of the goal of doing this is to identify some of the rarer Divination card drop weights against one another, so we can kind of get a sense of what kind of currency can be made by doing strategies that involve divination card farming. But I did track a few other things. I didn't track everything. I'm sure there will be some things I did not track that you maybe wish I did. But let's just quickly take a look here. This is from Sanctum League. So the Prohibited Library folks of that Discord decided to open up, I think it's over 100,000 or a few 100,000 stack decks. And they tracked every single one that they dropped, and they basically logged them as data, and it helps us paint a very clear picture as to how these cards line up with one another. And in case you are skeptical, it is assumed that the drop rates relative to stacked decks are identical to drop rates relative to as in terms of global drops within a map. Of course, things get a little weird when you start looking at boss-specific divination card drops. But as far as Crimson Temple, all of the divination cards in question are global drops to that map, and it would seem that they match up with the data here for the most part. Although my data there are a few somewhat outliers of my data, which we'll see in a second. Here we have, starting as a foundation, the Apothecary at 7. Which is arguably not a huge sample size, of course. Who knows? I mean, it wouldn't take much to bring this up to 8 or down to 6, but a little bit of luck or bad luck. But it is what we're having to work off of for now. And you can see up here about a little ways further, we have some cards that are supposed to be somewhere around 5 times as common, such as the Life Thief and the Dragon's Heart, coming out right about even there. And a little bit more common than that would be 7 Years Bad Luck, and the Enlightened card being the most common valuable card out of the Crimson Temple. And you can, again, use this spreadsheet here as a reference if you would like. I certainly enjoyed using it to kind of get an idea, get a basis for how good a strategy might be, based on some other cards. And then there are additional cards that drop that are very common in there, such as the Gambler, and even some cards more common than that. And so you can track those cards and get a very strong sense of how long it would take you to find an Apothecary, for example. Now, I did not track Gamblers and more common cards in this test. Since I was doing 1,000 maps, I decided to just test up to the Enlightened. So let's get into it here. At first, I have a little description here. It says the following data was collected running a strongbox focused strategy. Yes, with the enraged strongboxes, very common strategy for divination card farming. And again, exact details in the description of this video. On a high-end solo Magic Vine character with 48% increased item quantity, 341% increased item rarity. Profit margins were around 1.5 divines per map. So some people are going to be interested in, what did you make currency? And so obviously the answer is yes, make quite a bit of currency actually. Sure, the investment costs were somewhat high. They usually ranged around 200 chaos per map, which is less than a divine orb with the current pricing or former pricing as it was at the time. And as far as the time question, for me, it was around 22 or 23 divines an hour. I was able to get 100 maps done in under 7 hours in most cases on this character. It's a very, very well-geared character, though quite capable of clearing the maps very quickly. So let's get into the data here. I got 10 separate rows. They represent all 100 different maps. And I think the best way to talk about this is just go down the columns, though, and not focus too much on the maps here. So the first column, the first section, we have divination cards. First divination card we're going to look at is the most important one, the Apothecary. You can see 15 in total. This is less than I found back in Sentinel League. I believe the number was 24 in 1,000 maps in Sentinel League. Wow, that's weird. I actually forgot if it's 24 or not. I can't quite remember. What I can tell you with absolute certainty is that it appears that the card drop rate was nerfed since then, at least marginally, somewhere around 25. It might have been nerfed by a quarter, maybe a third, 25 to 33% nerf in the frequency of this card is what I gathered from that. That is as opposed to the very first league that they introduced the card. And that nerf might have taken place in Calandra League, actually, but I didn't test anything there. So we'll be starting Crucible League soon, and I'd say with relative confidence they're probably not going to adjust the drop rates of the card, at least not in any sort of significant way now, as we've had a chance to farm these cards for multiple leagues now. But you can see there were a few 100 map sets where I didn't get any, and there was one I got 4. And I think my best run here, somewhere in the 1,000 maps, was something like 4 cards and 30 maps. I think it was kind of my best run that I had. And I did have a dry spell of over 200 maps. You can see here in 300, 400, I think I went like 250 maps or so without a single one. So that things tend to even out that way. But yeah, 15. I was hoping for 19. I told people my hope was that I would get 19. It was kind of my projected goal. Getting 19 cards, didn't quite get there, but 1.5 cards, pretty reliable here. 1.5 cards, and per 100 maps anyway. 1.5 cards, which is about 1 every 66 maps, I guess, which is definitely within the margin of error. I was thinking it was somewhere around 150, 1 in 50 maps, 1 in 60 maps, maybe 1 in 70 maps. So that's right about where it fell in there. 7 years bad luck. I'm under the impression I got a little unlucky with these because the spread's a little odd here. It seems a little bit low, but anyway, I see 88 cards in 1,000 maps for Enlightens. I'm very lucky when it comes to finding the Enlighten card, as you all know. 136 Enlighten cards. I don't know. This seems fairly accurate, though. I think it's fairly accurate. Not terribly off, but a little bit there. Dragon Hearts looks quite well in line with the drop rates to Apothecaries as well as Enlightens here at 66. And here's the big outlier. This is one of the first outliers that I saw. If you recall, in that Prohibited Library sample of Divination card drop weightings, the Dragon Heart and the Life Thief were basically identical. In fact, on that one, the Life Heart was technically more rare than the Dragon Heart. But here you can see, for me, it's 50% more common. Thereabout. Yeah. 1 card away from being 50% more common, like 48% more common, I guess. And I don't know if that's just an extraordinary amount of luck or what, but I saw the Life Thief many times, and it's probably the least valuable card of the bunch. In fact, it definitely is, but it is still a card that provides an item that is worth something, definitely worth a lot at the league start, actually. It's called Zerfi's Heart, an amulet that I happen to be using in my build for league start. And so it's nice to know that it is solo self-found farmable, that you could go in there and in the time it would take you to find a 6 stack of them, I guess, because that's how many it takes to turn in, you would probably find about 1 Apothecary. So it seems 1 Apothecary per stack of Life Thieves somewhere in there. Pretty good information, if I don't say so myself. Mirror Shards, the next major outlier, nil. 0. I was extremely surprised to see this. I expected to see around 5 Mirror Shards, maybe more, actually. And one of the big reasons why I was expecting to find some is because I did a few hundred Crimson Temple maps with this strategy before I started recording them for this test run. And I found like 3 or 4. I think it was 4. 4 Mirror Shards and around 300 or 400 maps. So I don't know what happened, but never saw one again. So the results are what they are. Fractured Shards. This does include full Fractured Orb drops, just so you're aware. I did not track them specifically. you know, wow, I got this many full orbs, I got this many shards, so I apologize for that. Might be something you wish I had tracked. But counting conversions, full conversions, and full shards, this is a brand new item in Sanctum League, so it's very useful for me to be able to bring this to you. 573 shards, so a little over 1 shard every other map. Okay, next we got Divine Orbs. Not nearly as important to pull in here. There's a lot of different variables that will affect how many Divine Orbs you get. But the answer is 174 in 100 maps, so 1,000 maps, sorry. And next we have Reliquary keys. Voidborn Reliquary keys were a new addition, so also something that people will be grateful that I tracked, I think. The top number is 0, and it's written in red, and that's because my very first set of maps came out right before they released the Voidborn Reliquary keys. So I have corrected the coding in here, and you can see it's not detecting what is this for some, but for averages it is actually averaging these 9 between these two here, and an average of 2.3 repeating Voidborn Reliquaries per 100 maps is what I got. I heard of some people who weren't getting them very often, but they seem to drop fairly often for me, I felt. Here's a cool thing I tracked since I was running Magic Find, and I actually focused on Magic Finding. I did use used quadruple winged Scarabs, by the way. It was winged Reliquary Scarabs. I managed to find quite a few Tier 0 uniques, I think. There is a bit of contention as to whether the item Kitava's Feast is indeed a Tier 0, because if it is, that is an extraordinary outlier, because apparently I found 6 of them. 6 Kitava's Feast in 1,000 maps. That's really bizarre. And again, if it's a Tier 0 unique, that's the same as finding 6 Mage Bloods in 1,000 maps. So who finds 6 Mage Bloods in 1,000 maps? I don't know anybody who finds 6 Mage Bloods in 1,000 maps. But anyway, in the first set, I found a Lionized Glare, which was upgraded and changed to Tier 0. Extremely rare drop now. Not all that valuable, though. Then a Mage Blood in the second set. Then a Calandra's Touch in the third set. And then it was all downhill from there. I didn't really find anything else of value. All weapons beyond there, and the weapons apparently aren't worth very much. We got Bloodseeker also, which is a claw. 6 Kitava's Feast spread out down here. An actual duplicated Divinarius drop from an altar, a duped unique's altar. Divinarius is worth 4 or 5 divines, I think. And then Bino's Kitchen Knife back to back here, also not worth anything. And then a Marohi Erki. Hope I said that right. That is a 2-handed mace. And that is all of them. 15 in total, or 10 in total if Kitava's Feast is actually Tier 1. But assuming it's Tier 0, and I asked around, the assumption is Tier 0, that's an average of 1.5 Tier 0 uniques every 1,000 maps. Now, that not every single Tier 0 unique is on my loot filter, of course, but most of them do actually find their way on the loot filter. And quite a few items were brought into Tier 0 unique status that are on here, like some of when they buffed a lot of the uniques. You heard Chris Wilson say a while back that they were made much more rare, like Headhunter rare. Indeed, many of them were made Headhunter rare, even though they're nowhere near as powerful, but that's conversation for another time. The last category here is, I dubbed it Tier 0 altars. That's Veiled Chaos Orb altars, Exalted Orb altars, and Divine Orb altars. Or in the case that you're on Exarch's side, it would be Orb of Annulment altars, I guess. But here we got 6 of these, and there's 2 of each. I recall 2 of each, and I even think it broke down 1 minion, 1 boss of each, maybe, if I can remember correctly. I didn't have a map where I found a huge number of Divine Orbs. I think I found 9 in one map, or maybe it was 11, I can't remember. But you can see the Divine Orb count for the last set is a bit higher on the very last one, because that's one where I found I think it was 9 Divine Orbs because of an altar is there. So that's there too. People wondering how rare these altars are. I found 2 Divine Orb altars in 1,000 maps, which is unlucky, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of unlucky. And so that's it. That's all the results. It's not really much else to say. You can ask questions in the comments if you'd like. You can check out, please check out all the links before you start asking a bunch of questions. There's a lot of great information that will be linked in the description one way or another. Really glad to have gotten this finished, that it's now concluded. And I look forward to the next test, but I guarantee you it's not going to be Crimson Temple and it's not going to be next league. Probably going to take a break for this next league and just kind of have a little bit more fun, bring out videos of a variety of other content in here. But I know a lot of you were following along this journey, and a lot of you were cheering me on, so I appreciate that. But, you know, we'll just keep on going, and we'll figure out what new things Crucible League has to offer that we can give our attention to. It might have something to do with that Brothers gift card, that brand new Divination card. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if we can find out where that card drops, hopefully. But that's all I got for you now. I got more videos to make for you, and we got a league start right around the corner, so I'm busy, and so are you. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you next time.